I was just thinking, and I wrote down, to be our authentic self requires a metric shit ton of inner safety and security. I feel like this is such a big topic that feels like, I don't even know if it's a pillar of owning authenticity so much as it is a foundation under the entire thing. That, like, back when I came up with owning authenticity, and even until recently, I don't think I understood the mechanics of authenticity and how it functions and what comes along to stunt our authentic self, to inspire us to keep it hidden. Why do we do that? Why does that ever happen? It's so normal. It's so normal. Especially in the social media age, I feel like things are definitely turning where there's a bigger and bigger and bigger audience craving authenticity. But why is authenticity so hard? And I think this is the answer. To be our authentic self requires a metric shit ton of inner safety and security. And I don't know very many people who possess that. I wish I did. I think I know people who are working on it, and that's encouraging. I think I myself am working on it, and I would imagine as I continue to develop it within myself that I'll meet more and more people in the world who possess it as well. I think it's something that all of us can practice and, like, 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter, build that foundation inside of ourselves. Because I think when we show our authentic self to the world, as in we don't live in fear of accidentally showing the wrong side of ourselves, like we just be us and, like, don't even think about it, like you just be your natural self. Like, in order to do that, I think the only way to do that is to be standing on a foundation that says, no matter how people react to me, no matter what choices the other people around me make, I'm okay. I'm okay because I make it okay. Inside of myself, I am safe. Inside of my life, I am safe. I may not always have the right now circumstances to make me feel that way, but even when the outside circumstances look wobbly, there's an internal self-trust that says, I know that I can land on my feet. Even if I roll a couple of times, I know I can get up on my feet. I've done it before. And if I had to do it again, I know that I could. So I'm newly in my life making it to a stage of my what I would call a self-empowerment journey. I am seeing this foundation under my feet, and it's interesting because it is always there, and yet I can still find myself pulled into external circumstances where I'll wake up in the kind of floating of being in the external circumstances, and my feet are no longer touching that inner foundation. And that what that looks like is like trying to control those external circumstances, or feeling bad about what's going on in those external circumstances, like needing for it to be different. And when I'm doing that, I don't feel safe because I need the outcome to be something specific. And when I need the outcome outside of myself to be something specific, I am dependent on a specific outcome in order for me to feel safe in the world, it's really hard to be your authentic self. I would almost say impossible, right? Like never say never. But if you're curating a specific outcome, that's guiding your choices. That's guiding who you choose to be in every moment that you think matters to achieve the desired outcome that you want. It's like the desired outcome becomes a co-creator in terms of who are you and how do you show up in the world. It's no longer just you and your natural self. You also have to try to portray yourself as the person who will achieve this desired outcome. And that's a long ways from authenticity. Portraying yourself in the world as who you think you want to be seen as. And that's not something that I'm like claiming to have fully figured out, because I don't. I mean, there are still places where I feel vulnerable and places where I feel like just being in my true nature, it feels taboo. And those are my most favorite moments, to be honest with you, because finding what makes me feel vulnerable, it's like asking myself that question and going into it and understanding that I am almost 99.99% of the time trying to control the outcome around me instead of focusing internally. That's an invitation in my book to release that attachment to the outcome, to open yourself up to accept whatever outcome is meant to happen, whatever outcome is going to serve your own highest good, and to somewhat surrender the idea that you know what that is. I think that's a big piece of it. It's like so often our humanness, and especially our ego, has a very specific idea about what our security looks like. And when you really get down to like your animal nature, you are secure far more of the time than you give yourself credit for. And that's kind of the bridge, I think, is surrendering this idea that you know what your safety looks like, and instead letting it be, because it is natural and almost guaranteed it's already happening. Like, you're already secure. If you would allow that to be true, you can take care of yourself if you're willing to believe that you can. If you think you need somebody else's help, then you do. That's true. You said it, you need it, so you do. And that is, it's just, again, it's a very interesting place to reflect as far as what does leave you feeling insecure in your world? What leaves you feeling unsafe? When do you feel unsafe? And what are the indicators around that? Like, what are the thoughts that come with that? What are the bodily sensations that come with that? What are your expectations about the situation? What do you feel like anything is missing? Do you need somebody else to perform a specific outcome so that you have the sense of safety that you wish you did? Like, these are just, again, like helpful questions for contemplating how secure are you really? And if authenticity is an intention for you, as far as you want to, I mean, this is basically how I think about it, but like, I want to be the person who my soul was coming forward to be. And my soul has some intentions that my conditioned human self isn't always super cool with. Like, one of those is that I'm a disruptor, plain and simple. I have something of a numb side when it comes to social norms and like cultural expectations. I think I have just a little bit of a thick skull when it comes to soaking that kind of stuff up. So I tend to push boundaries without even really understanding that I'm being controversial in the moment. And so, yeah, it's like, I don't like to make people uncomfortable. My ego self, especially, doesn't like to think that I hurt somebody's feelings or I made them uncomfortable or they like regretted talking to me or something like that. Like, those bruise my ego to think about for sure. But at the same time, my soul understands that when you crack open somebody's shell, a new being comes forward. They will never be the same. And that there is a value in that. And that from my authentic self place, I fully trust that whatever I'm inspired to offer is in alignment with not only my highest good, but their highest good too. And that I can't say that just because, some conversations might get rocky, or maybe I offend people sometimes, or they get really mad at me sometimes. Like, I can't say that that is a bad outcome, because it's not. I have no capacity to judge that for myself, because I don't have a crystal ball and I don't know what's coming in the future. I can only ever be in my right now moment and choose, am I gonna go with my own natural flow, or am I curating an appearance in this moment? And neither is the wrong answer, neither is the right answer. There's only which one is the true answer for you in any given moment, for me in any given moment. And like, this moment right now is the only one that I have access to. It obviously keeps shifting forward as we stay in it longer, but it's like right now I know that I have my like Carly self is like sat off to the side somewhere, and all that's happening here is a stream of energy flowing from the center of my being through my vocal cords and out my mouth. I have no concept for what I'm saying at this moment. I have nothing intended to say next. I don't know what the main point I was even trying to make is. There's just a flow of energy. And in order to let that happen, like, I know that there's so many people out there who want to convince others that the world is not a safe place. And I think that when you are unsafe inside of yourself, the world is not a safe place. And I experience some of that still, where I'm living out of a place of needing to control the outcome, needing people to like me, needing people to respond well to me, needing relationships with certain people to continue. Like, I still catch myself with glimpses of that energy rising to my surface, and every time it just is so interesting to look at, in this moment it's true that you need this person in your world, and all I'm asking is why? Like, they're not even in your world 24/7 right now, and you survive the times that they're not there. Why do you need them? Why do you need, if it's an outcome, like, I need to get an A. Why? How does that help your current right now, this moment? I'm not talking about future security, right? I'm talking about right now in this moment. How does that outcome, how does that person help you feel more secure right now? That's an interesting question, because you have to get down into, where are you finding security? Where does security in your inner world come from? Is it something that you're generating within yourself? Because no matter what comes up inside of you, you are safe to receive it from yourself. Like, I think about that kind of as an inner child, both inner child, inner parent dynamic. And I remember, like, back in my depressive years, how when my inner child was upset about something, my inner parent was just mad at her, was just mad at myself for these stupid emotions, and mad at not being like everybody else, and just like, would you just shut up? Would you just get over it already? This is the kind of stuff that I would say to myself very harshly. And that was the level of safety for me in the world, was like, my inner child was not safe with anybody, least of all me. And so when our emotions come up, aka when our inner child rises up to speak to us, how do we respond? I think that's a big chunk of the total security and safety that we have in our world is, how do you respond to your ugliest emotions? Are you mean to yourself? Do you force it to be over as fast as possible? Do you judge and belittle that, like, you should be over this already? Like, that kind of self-treatment is where insecurity comes from. You are literally not safe with you. And at that point, it's nobody else in the world who is preventing you from being your authentic self except for you. Because you could potentially judge some negative experience that might happen. Like, I mean, when we start being our authentic self, rejection is inevitable. That's just part of it. Like, I hear a common thread as far as, like, I'm worried that people won't look at me the same. They won't. They absolutely won't. That's the whole point. And some of them will look at you in a more positive way. Some of them will look at you with an even greater level of love and respect. And some of them will hate you for your authenticity. None of it, literally none of it, their love or their hate, or their indifference for that matter, which is pretty much worse than hate, none of it will make you more or less secure than you already are with yourself. Because when you, like, I think it kind of comes back to, like, when you don't love yourself and then other people say they love you, like, this one was more like beautiful. Okay, like, I thought I was ugly for my whole life mostly, and then people would call me pretty or beautiful or whatever, and, like, I just didn't believe them. Like, that's not true, because I know in myself that it's not true. And so it's like, okay, so I had a positive experience and it felt like nothing because there was no truth in it, because it didn't match at all with my own internal truth. And then I have an experience of somebody calling me ugly, and that causes me a tremendous amount of suffering, not because they said it, but because I know it's true. And I suffered and suffered and suffered and suffered and suffered for years over a few times in my life being called ugly, because I knew for certain that it was true, and everybody can see it, and the ones who tell me different are just lying to my face, trying to butter me up, butter my biscuit, and make me feel better. And that's not a great place to live. Being insecure in the world, it sucks. Speaking from personal experience, I do not wish it on anyone. And yet at the same time, the whole point of what I'm saying is that the only person that I can give security to in this entire world is me. And I feel like I have. I feel like I've built a foundation under my feet, and a lot of times I'm standing on it. And sometimes I'm floating somewhere above it in a cloud of other people's energy. And then there's a process that has to unfold to where I can, like, recenter myself inside of my own energy and my own truth. And who am I? Yes, the world is out there and they are all kinds of things and diversity abounds and it's all beautiful. But who am I? And knowing who you are, not in full, but enough so that your feet are stable on your inner foundation, where you feel safe for whatever comes up and flows through you in any moment through your true nature. You trust that who your soul was born to be is unfolding naturally inside of you all the time. And the only difference, the only thing that's ever going on is, are you allowing yourself to go with your own flow uninhibited? Or are you throwing up roadblocks? And any of the roadblocks that you might throw up, they aren't by accident. They aren't wrong. Like, I was, again, in my earlier journaling this morning of, like, basically kind of, I feel like I have a little bit of money karma, and I am just honestly sick of it. And that as I start journaling, like, I'm ready to transmute this. It's like, that sounds really good. And at the same time, as I, like, 2 sentences in, I'm like, well, and I also trust that everything is perfectly divinely timed. So there's no need to transmute anything, to try to control the outcome of anything, and that I had to pick up just enough karma and blockages so that I could find the path out of it, and I could suffer inside of it so that I know what it's like when people are in there. And that's called compassion. And that I could maybe find the path out of it and shine a light on that path for whoever else might want to travel along it. You know, like, I'm just building infrastructure inside of myself and talking about it out loud as far as what I'm doing. And anybody who wants to practice these things inside of themselves is welcome to, you know. And by that, I mean, when you feel vulnerable, when you project into the future and the outcome that you can see is devastating to you, that is really interesting as far as pointing towards this equation of where is your security coming from. Because I think I don't know, I'm kind of like, maybe that's the edge of what I have coming through, because devastation and the purpose of it, and humans don't experience anything that isn't for evolutionary purposes. So all negative spectrum emotion is guiding us into an evolution that I feel like my strength, like a huge material that is baked into this foundation of inner security inside of myself, is trusting this divinely timed unfolding that is my life. I'm not in charge here. This is not my plan. This is the divine's plan, the universe's plan. The highest good of the all is always unfolding, and pain and suffering are tools in the toolbox, the same as laughter and joy. And when I'm in pain and when I am suffering, that doesn't mean that a single thing has gone wrong. And in fact, it's that invitation into the next level of what you're here to experience. The next level of finding true security where it actually comes from, which is something that we generate within ourselves. It's a foundation that we build under our own feet so that we have something to stand on in this world, no matter what anybody else is doing. No matter what anybody else is choosing, no matter how they feel, how they believe, how they think, how they're choosing to build their lives, like, none of it matters to our own inner security. And that is a foundation that I literally wish for everyone.